Whether you're trying to improve your driving or your irons, there is one part of the swing where golfers continue to make huge mistakes that cost them later on in the swing, and that happens in the takeaway. If you get this first part of the swing right, then the rest of your backswing and downswing are going to happen more naturally, they're going to happen in the correct sequence, and they're going to allow you to generate speed and hit the ball further. In this video, I'm going to explain what should happen, when it should happen, and a couple of drills that you can do to help guarantee your takeaway is correct, to help the rest of your swing work better. If you're new here, then please hit that subscribe button. I release new videos like this every single week that I'm certain will help improve your game. Right, let's get to the video. So you guys see this week in, week out at your home clubs, the players who lift their arms up, take the club outside, keep the club head too low, take the club way inside, and you can see the faults that that causes. If you're low and inside, you're going to come over the top. If you pick it up steep, you're not going to turn very well. So it really does help to get this first part of the move right. So once you've found yourself in a good setup position where you've got a relatively neutral grip, or certainly a grip that matches your shot shape intention, you stood with decent posture, you're nice and in balance when you stood to the ball, I would always advise people not to stand still for very long before they take the club back. You see this all the time on tour where golfers stand there and they're shifting back and forwards, or they're waggling their wrists. And they're doing this because generally stillness doesn't really produce great results. There aren't really many things you do from an absolute standing start to an extremely explosive move. You generally are always moving, and then when you need to move quickly, it's a bit easier to get going. So I like people to be in motion. I quite like a trigger where a golfer is stepping, moving their weight back and forwards and maybe waggling their wrists. And if a player's doing that, I A, know that they're a good player, and B, I know that things are generally going to move in the right order. So once the player has found their motion, they've found their pre-shot waggle, and they're ready to go, the first thing I like to see is a push down into the trail foot and the trail wrist starting to hinge upwards. Now, I like the push down because that gives us a little weight shift to our right side or our trail side, and that's really as far back as my weight's ever going to go in the golf swing. And I also like the wrist starting to hinge because we want that club getting higher off the ground pretty much from the word go. Now, I've spoke about this before and people have said, well, Jack Nicklaus went low and slow, and Nelly Korda does that drill where she's pushing the ball back, but you are not Jack Nicklaus and you are not Nelly Korda. As an amateur golfer, I know that we need to get the club higher earlier in the backswing, so let's not argue about it. Push down into that trail foot, we're starting to hinge the wrists, and we're not hinging the wrists vertically upwards, and we're not pulling the wrist straight backwards. It's pretty much a 45-degree hinge upwards, and that's a mixture of radial deviation and wrist extension. And if you think 45 degrees, then that gives us about the right move that's going to get us in the right position at the top. The reason I like people to use their wrists in the takeaway is because I know the earlier I can get the wrists in a good position, then the more likely we're going to keep them into impact. Golfers who try and set the club late generally have a hard time and generally end up flicking it at the bottom. So let's try and get that wrist in early, and let's try and set the face in a good place. We've stood over the ball in continuous motion, we've done a couple of waggles, we push down into that trail side, we start hinging the club upwards 45 degrees, and from here what we now want to do is hip turn. So that right hip from this position is going to go straight backwards, which is then going to cause my right leg to straighten and my left knee to flex, and that creates the gap in our knees. So, and as I do that, moving the hips is obviously going to move my shoulders, and that's what's going to stop the club from going straight up like Matt Wolff, and that's going to bring us into that perfect takeaway position. So from here you can see I've got a good amount of wrist set, my hips have started to move, my weight is pretty much fairly centered between our feet now because I've pushed down and turned, and from here it's very easy just to turn into a good position at the top. If your takeaway is way off in one direction or another, then you're going to have to do something weird to get into a good position at the top, and generally doing that weird compensation is going to throw your momentum either over the top or just straight down into the ground, and that's when we see problems. So if we can sort these things in the takeaway, then I'd just rather do it as early as possible. Now, most golfers watching this video are not subscribers, and I can't for the life of me tell you why that is, but if you could please hit that subscribe button, that helps boost the engagement of this video. It's going to get this video out to more people, and it's going to help me grow. So anything you can do to help, then that would be great. So the perfect takeaway: continuous motion, couple of waggles, push down, hinge and turn, and that gets the club moving in the right direction. I really believe that golf is a backswing sport, and I really think that if we can get into a good position at the top via the right route, then the downswing should happen quite naturally, and we will hit the ball from the inside and hit the ball with a draw. I don't like the idea that a golfer wants a super late downswing feel to their swing, because the downswing only lasts 0.2 seconds. So what possible feeling can you have that you could pull off in that short amount of time consistently? I'd much rather get us in a position at the top where it just makes sense to swing down on a good plane, hit the ball before the ground, and get the ball up by the pin. Continuous motion, a couple of waggles, push into the trail foot, hinge the wrist 45 degrees, right hip goes straight back, we're at the top, and then we're able to swing down on plane and hit the ball well. A drill I like people to do to get this right is actually start their swing from the hinged and pressure in the trail foot position, because from here all you need to do is turn the hip straight back, turn the shoulders, and you're in a good top of the backswing position. Starting in that position actually takes away a lot of the variation. It really is the wrists and the turn that people get wrong. So if we can get the wrists in the good position and then only have to think about hip back and shoulder turn, then that's as simple as it could possibly get. So we're going to push into the trail foot, hinge the wrist 45 degrees, and then hip back, shoulder turn, and hit it. You can see that by presetting these good positions. Pressure, 45-degree wrist. All I need to do now is turn, gets me into a good position, and then I can just swing in a good plane and hit it. So pressure, wrist, stop, turn, and strike. It really does not get any simpler than that. When you're doing that hip turn and shoulder turn, I don't want anyone to feel like their pressure's continuing to move more to the right, because again, if we've only got 0.2 seconds in the downswing, there's not enough time to get our body into a good hitting position. So the maximum amount of pressure I want amateur golfers to put onto that trail foot is, as we take the club away, is early pressure and then hit back. That actually might feel like you've gone to your right side and then you shift into your left, and I like that as a feel. So another drill I'll do with people is actually have them start their swing with their weight on their back foot. This seems counterintuitive because you think you want to start on your front foot, but by starting on the trail foot, as you turn back, you're forced to shift forwards. And I really like people to feel that shift. So start with your pressure under the trail foot, hinge the wrist, turn back, and thin it down there. And by doing this, you're going to learn to recenter, get over the ball at the top, strike it first, bosh it down there. So that second drill might be one you've not done before or seen before, but believe me, if you practice that recentering, pressure, recenter, and get the wrist hinging at 45 degrees, then you are going to be in a position at the top where you're over the ball, you can compress it, and all those faults you have that are looping it over or just axe chopping it up and down will be gone. Lots of movement, keep that momentum going. Waggle the wrist, pressure down through the trail foot, 45-degree wrist hinge, hip back, shoulder turn, and swing down. Hopefully that all makes sense. I cannot emphasize enough how important this takeaway is. If we get this wrong, then we're just playing catch up throughout the rest of the backswing. And unless you're Jim Furyk or one of these players who can practice for 10 hours a day, you're just not going to make up for it and you're going to struggle. Don't come at me in the comments with weird takeaway PGA Tour players who have made strange takeaways work. We are not as talented as those guys. We do not practice as much as those guys. So we as amateur golfers need to do a better job of being more correct to give us a bigger margin for error and more consistent golf shots. So you just need to work on the pressure, the hinge, the turn, and if you do those things, then you will swing better, you will hit the ball better, and you will score lower on the golf course. Thanks very much for watching the videos. If you can please like and comment to boost the engagement, and subscribe if you don't already, that'd be great. If you like what I put out in these videos, you like what I say about technique, I can actually help you with your game no matter where you are in the world. So if you just want to click the link in the bio, it'll take you to Skillist, which is an online coaching platform, and there you can look to see what I do, and actually I can help you with your game, so analyze your swing, give you some drills and tips to help you improve, so we can work together to help you lower your handicap. But anyway, let's get back to the video.